Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. Those are words that I heard a lot because if anyone knows me knows that I like Elvis. My mom loved Elvis, so I heard all his songs. I was just telling Polly, I bet you I know every one of his songs. And what beautiful words. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. It was one of his songs. I think Elvis, I didn't look up a lot. There's a lot to learn about Elvis, but I didn't look. But those words to me sound like someone that had a hurt heart or someone that's lost. And what I know about Elvis, he had many women in his life. One of them was Anne Margaret, I believe. She was the first woman after Priscilla Presley. But I looked up a few things, so I have to talk fast so I remember. Anyhow, I'll start backwards, I guess. So Elvis Presley died on August 16th, 1977. And how do I know that? Because there are things in life that happen and you remember where you were. Like 9/11. I know where I was. And I forgot other things because I'm trying to remember the Elvis facts. But anyhow, I was walking home from school. I started babysitting when I was 9.5, and I had to babysit. And I remember when I got home, and then I heard it on the radio, I believe, or the woman whose child I babysat told me. That part I can't remember, but I remember I was walking home from school. So anyhow, Elvis Presley was born January 8th, don't screw it up, 1935, I think. That's from memory. So he just had an anniversary, which I was going to talk about on that day. But also on that day, I was going to put up another video, which I'll still put it up. I won't tell you what it is in case I don't put it up. But I don't know if I put up a video on January 8th because my son has been pretty sick lately, so I don't know. And that's my heater thing that I constantly got to put up and down because of whatever is wrong with me that no one can figure out with my hot body. Not that way, you know what I mean. I overheat and I got the chills. But anyhow, back to Elvis the Pelvis. Yes, I remember that phrase. So he was born in January 8th, 1935. And on, let's figure it out so I don't say it wrong. On March, don't remember the exact date, but March 1958, he was drafted by the U.S. military. And he signed up for the draft. And when he was drafted, there were tens of thousands of letters written by many crazy young girls who didn't want him to go. Let's turn this heat off because it is way burning up my body. But it didn't. Elvis was not going to take it. He was going to go and serve his time. He'd serve his country. So I believe he was already singing by then. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't look up a lot of facts. I looked up a few, and I'm putting a few in that I know. So he went off to the Army. Oh, I remember the date. I see it. So I think, I don't know. Anyhow, he was drafted for a 2-year stint in the Army. I didn't know there was only 2 years. But what I learned, this is something I didn't know. This is when I was looking things up. So he got out of the Army in, what did I just say now? 2 years later, he got out of the Army, and he got out as a sergeant. But they said on his, it wasn't, there's 2 different uniforms, I guess. There's uniforms when you're active and when you're not, maybe, but I may be totally wrong. Whatever he was wearing. So instead of saying sergeant, it said staff sergeant. They said it was an error, and I'm thinking, was it really? Staff sergeant is a higher ranking than sergeant. Now that I looked up. So if I'm wrong, whoever wrote it is wrong. I don't know anything about that. But anyhow, what it said, and again, I don't know, it's just stuff I'm reading. It said that they wanted to get Elvis drafted and his group, which they called the 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 I don't know, the Tennessee, no, the Elvis something, and after it the words were M, a letter in there, and B. I don't know if I could say that word on YouTube, but that's what they were known as. So him and some of his friends. So I guess he got drafted. I'm not sure if those friends, a few friends, either joined, because you can join the army. So I'm not sure if they drafted his friends or not, because it didn't say. But anyhow, some of his friends also went in whatever fashion they went, drafted or just volunteered. So Elvis being Elvis, he could have probably got out of it. But he was going. And they said the reason was that the military, and that was a little sketchy. I couldn't understand because they were talking about some colonel. And then it seemed like someone who worked for him was, I don't know, colonel or sergeant, who worked for him might have been older and worked in the army, and they set it up. So I don't really know how this all happened. But basically the gist of it is they drafted him, and this sounds so not, can't be true, but hey, what's going on in our world now? You know, all kinds of not rights could have gone on back then too. So basically they drafted him because I guess they didn't have enough people on reserve. You know how in the army, if they don't have enough people, or the service, if they don't have enough people, they have to instill the draft. Well, that's my understanding of it. So it was low. People weren't signing up. No, weren't volunteering. Okay, I just said that and I screwed up. I knew I was going to screw this up. I'm trying to remember dates. Who cares about the dates? Anyhow, so people were, you sign up for the draft when you're 18 years old. But they first count on people to volunteer to go into the service. So they apparently didn't have enough people on reserve. And I got to turn this heater thing on. This is how I live, on and off, up and down. I can't see that far what I'm putting on. Anyhow, so they didn't have enough people on reserve, so they drafted Elvis as a model for other young men to join the army. So when they drafted him, he was 23 years old. Now, is this true? Is it not? I don't know. Can it be proven? I don't know. Before what's happened in the last, what now? It's almost 3 years. I would have said that doesn't sound like it could be true. Of course, I used to always be naive. I believe, I hope I'm not as naive as I used to be. Like I said, once I went out clubbing. I didn't go out clubbing. Why would I even say that? When I went out to dance in a club sometimes, we'll talk about that another time. I learned not to be naive. So anyhow, I'm screwing this up. And this will just be a fun little video, facts or not. But anyhow, if what we haven't gone through in the last 3 years, if I didn't live through that, I would definitely not believe that they did it. But you know what? As far as what we've gone through, I believe they did that. They drafted him to show, and they were just going to give him a job as an entertainer to entertain. And I believe it said during that time it was the Korean War. So he was going to just entertain. And they said but Elvis had no part of that either. He wanted it to be whatever he had to be. And if he was made to go to the war, he would go to the war. And then it said something in preparation of the Cold War. I didn't look any more up, and I'm a history buff, so I should know it. But, you know, if my brain wasn't burning all the time, I'd probably know it. So anyhow, if you made any sense out of those wars, does it really matter? So anyhow, it was more like a stunt, not a stunt, a way to get other young men like, wow, he's cool, he's Elvis Presley. Elvis Aaron Presley was his real name, I believe. If he's going into the army, or the service, I don't know, was he in the army? It seems like he's in a different rank. I don't know why I keep saying army. Military, let's just say military. Other guys are like, wow, he's cool, he's Elvis. You know, I'm sure many guys hated him, young guys. But, you know, if their girlfriends loved Elvis and it made their girlfriends happy, I bet they took him to Elvis concerts, right? And you can imagine what happened after a concert, right? I don't know. Where's my brain going to? Who knows? But anyhow, so Elvis was having no part of this stint, whatever word I used. I tried to remember the word they used. Oh, a model for other young men. So, you know, it makes sense to have a model for other young men, but to use someone And was there money exchanged by his agent? Did his agent make money? That's what it sounds like. Again, it's only what I'm reading. I don't know if it's true or not. So anyhow, he served his 2 years, and like I say, he came home with this, I almost said costume, not costume, with, there's different kinds of uniforms. So whatever uniform he had that he came home on, because I remember seeing, like I said, my mom couldn't watch any war stories, bombing, anything, but I remember seeing my uncle, her husband, like to watch, these kind of movies. I remember when the guys came back from the army, they had some kind of uniform. It wasn't, like I said, I think there's one where you go out and fight, and then there's one where you would come home in and maybe just do your army. I don't know why I keep saying my army. I don't know if he was in that rank, I don't know whatever it's called, that branch. But anyhow, he came home in some sort of uniform. He came home as a sergeant. That's what he earned, worked his way up. But by mistake, they put staff sergeant, which is higher than a sergeant. Again, to me, that sounds a little fishy, but who cares? I love Elvis. So anyhow, oh, there was so much more I wanted to say, and now I totally forgot. I said to Polly, I got to remember this quick, and then I started doing it, and then I screwed up the song, and then it kept, my thing went on and on. He said, oh, you can use it as a blooper. I said, I don't know. Who knows what I said in between? I wasn't swearing or anything. But anyhow, his M, skip a letter B, his Elvis M skip B, or Tennessee, or I don't know what it's called. Once it was called the Elvis M skip B. But anyhow, they were talking about it. I was watching a video about, they were talking about it. And okay, cover your ears. I'm going to try to say it ladylike. But first I'll talk about, the guys were talking about, you hang around Elvis and you get all the women. And of course, being over in Germany, he was stationed in Germany. At some point he was in Germany because that's where he met Priscilla. And I was going to look, why was Priscilla in Germany? Because I believe she was French. Priscilla Beauvais, something that sounds French to me. But anyhow, sorry I'm going fast. I'm trying to remember the things I read about this. But anyhow, so they got time off, and they would go and, like any red-blooded 25-year-old male, what do? Search out women for, what? But anyhow, so they were going, and I don't remember if it was at that point or when they came back, but at some point, a couple of the guys were saying, at that time we had already got married. So it's sketchy for me. Is it while they were in the army or when they came back? So it was either while they were, again, army comes up. In the service, were they saying this one time during the service, or the service and when they came back? So it was either the service and they came back, or when they came back. So most of the guys that got married, Elvis had not. I think Elvis got married, they have two different figures, but they said he was 24 and she was 14. That would have been a year later, but another place says 2. So it doesn't really matter about the years. Let's get back on track. I was trying to remember all these dates to impress you. Forget the dates. Anyhow, so they were having fun, and the one guy said, yeah, I think it was when they were in the service. The one guy said, so it was a group of his. He had an entourage of, I think, 10 or 11 men. One was, watched his money. One was a family member. I forgot what his job was. He had a bodyguard. I'm sure he had more than one, so on and so forth. So other of his people in his group were either drafted or they voluntarily went with him. And it was part of I forgot the word now because I'm trying to remember everything else. Anyhow, they said they wanted to have a role model. So Elvis was a role model with some of his friends. So maybe they were drafted, but that doesn't sound right because I don't know how the draft works. But I don't think they hand pick people. But anyhow, who cares right now? Let's not hope there is a draft. Knock on wood. But anyhow, so they were having a good time, and the guy was saying in another video that said, Elvis was still a single man, and we were having fun with other women, and you had a bunch of women, and he said, and this is the way I'm going to try to be ladylike to say this. The one guy said, we had more butts. Your buttocks. It's another word that begins with an A. We had more butts than a toilet seat. I think it's a funny joke. I'd like to say it the right way because it sounds more funnier. But number one, I don't know if you can, that's swearing, I think, if you can swear on YouTube, and I don't want to insult any of you, but can you replace the butt word with an A word? It would be funny. So they got more butts than a toilet seat. So anyhow, so while they were having all this fun, they had, I forgot the ratio of women to their group of men, but the one guy said, so they were up, you know, at night, partying, whatever. How do they get up in the morning to do their military stuff? I don't know. But anyhow, one morning he gets a call at 7 a.m. No, never mind. That's another thing. Scratch that out of your memory. Okay, so anyhow, oh yeah, I think the married thing was afterward. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. So anyhow, he came back. The butt thing was over in the service. They got so many women, and he also referred when they were back, but it was said during the time they were in the service. So now they're back, and then they're totally lost my train of thought. Hold on a minute. Then they got back, and he played in Vegas, I assume, a lot, right? And he was playing 2 shows a day during a month. So apparently, whoever was his agent, I don't know what they called him. You have an agent, a manager I think is a manager. It doesn't matter. Whatever they called him was booking him way too much. He was really tired. And, well, I'm sure people have read, that's how he got into the pills, you know, the uppers and downers. They were up all night, you know. You have a show, the shows are at night, I assume. I've never had the pleasure of seeing a show. For some reason, I think when I said I went to Atlantic City with my first husband, we saw a show, but we were in Atlantic City. I couldn't think of the place we went. I said there was gambling there, and there was a boardwalk, and all around where all the casinos, it was poor area. It was Atlantic City. If you watch that video, I don't know when I put up, but anyhow, I don't know why I went there because I'm trying to remember what I want to say. So anyhow, I love Elvis, and I just try not to cry because my mom loved him, and I don't want to cry because of her, because I miss her, but I'm trying to remember. It was just interesting things that I didn't know. So anyhow, when they came back, of course, they were, like I said, in Vegas. He was doing his shows. Oh, if only I could see a real show. Well, he's gone, and I think he started this long before I was even a thought. I wasn't around, but I don't think I was even a thought. You ever say that to your kids, like, at this time, you weren't even a thought? I don't know if I said, I've heard people talk that way. I don't know. Anyhow, back to what I was talking about. So anyhow, they're doing these shows, and they were, you know, they had to take uppers and downers because they had to stay up. Well, they didn't have to stay up. After the show, that's when they said they had so many women they could, you know, obviously, look at Elvis. I mean, come on. He's hot. He was hot. Oh, my God. Oh, I wish I was around that time, but if I was, then I would be really old now, so I guess that I wasn't. But anyhow, so all his group of his entourage also indulged in the women, and that at that point definitely they were married, and they were saying, you know, we were all married, and Elvis wasn't. So it was before he married. This was talked about before he married Priscilla, but then he married Priscilla, and the shenanigans still went on. So one night they were in a hotel room or hotel rooms. They didn't specify. Maybe they were all together on one big orgy. I don't really know, and I don't know if I could say that word, but I did. So I don't think that's a bad word. Well, I don't know. Whatever. I'm trying to get this stuff right. I hope you're just laughing along with me that I'm trying to get the facts right. Who cares about the facts? Let's just listen about Elvis. So anyhow, where am I going with this? Where was I? Oh, yeah. So one morning at 7 o'clock, they had a phone call, and one of the people, and I wish I remember exactly who he was, but he answers the phone, and it was the front desk, and they said, do you know it's 7 o'clock? And he's like, okay. And he's thinking, like, what? Is it 7 at night or something? Did we missed a show? We forgot some? So no, it's I don't remember because I tried to remember. But anyhow, the gist of that was the guy said it's 7 o'clock, and oh, I forgot what they were called. Ah, my goodness gracious. Well, we'll call them the Rockettes. You know, the girls that dance in Vegas? We'll call them the Rockettes. I don't know what they are. He says, you have our whole, and they didn't call it a group. The squad. Let's call it a squad. The whole squad of the Rockettes are with you, all of you guys. So they were partying with the whole, they're not called Rockettes. well, maybe they are the dancing girls. Let's call them that. The Vegas dancing girls. That's not what they're called. So they had them all partying. They were partying with Elvis and his entourage. So he says, send them back. I thought that was really funny. I mean, some people who maybe, can't get loose. Not loose. That was totally wrong. Like some people are like holier than thou. They would think that was horrible. And I never thought I was holier than thou, but I think people, like I shared when I went out dancing and I was, a mom my whole life, and well, I'm still a mom, but I didn't know, so people looked at me as holier than thou, like I hadn't gone around the block. I'm sure you know that phrase. If I know it, you guys must know it. Meaning that I know some of you are older than me, so if I know it, you must know it. Unless there's different time periods that they have different phrases. But going around the block means, I feel dumb saying this because I'm sure you all know what it means. It means I haven't had that kind of experience. I went from high school and got married, had kids, and then divorced and, married a second time. And then he just started a whole life, walked out of our sons' lives and left us out to dry to lose everything. But anyhow, who cares about us? We're talking about Elvis. So anyhow, he had a good time and a lot of partying, and it's really sad, when you, I don't have a single Elvis book. I wish I did. I would love to read his stories. And again, do you take them with a grain of salt? Yes, of course you do, if they're not written, by him or whatever. Probably with anyone's story. But you think of this Priscilla at she had just turned age 14 when they met her. I wish I looked up why they were in Germany. Maybe her father was in the military, I don't know. But when she was in her senior year in high school, her father finally let her move into the mansion. I guess it was Graceland, right? Because they say they still now, I just watched it today, which to you would be yesterday, that they said they still use Graceland to have family gatherings. Is it true or not? It's just what I heard. So, as you know, Graceland is a museum. Which, by the way, the second guy, that walked out of Polly's life, and it's been several months, and he still hasn't contacted him, didn't wish him a happy birthday, no gift, his very important birthday. I said to him, since we didn't have a honeymoon, if we could go to Graceland, and he always promised he'd bring me there. Ha! Wasn't that a joke? Ha! I believed him back then. Anyhow, sorry the people that get offended when I talk about him, but you know what? If you're going through what I am, and you will never know because I can't tell you a lot of this stuff, you would know why it comes out of my mouth. Not as much anymore, but anyhow, back to Elvis. So, my mom never let me go anywhere, so, I don't know. She must have had a father that maybe saw money. I don't know. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But can you imagine letting your daughter... No, that's not right. She met him when he was 14. You can't be 14 in your senior year in high school. Okay, scratch that. So at 14, she met him in Germany. That's the part I don't know, and I should have looked up, but I didn't. But who cares, right? Let's just talk about Elvis. But in her senior year of high school, she was allowed to move into that mansion. And I believe she didn't marry him until, one place I saw she was 21, but they said he was 10 years older than him, and they said he was 34 when he married her. So if anyone knows any of these facts I'm giving out, correct me if I'm wrong, because I was trying to remember all these numbers, but I'd be interested to know. But anyhow, do you think that's true, that the military drafted him and or drafted his friends, or they just signed up just to get more recruits? I mean, I believe it. Like I say, what our world's going through, everything that we've been told and been lied to and been meant to believe, and what's going on with the prices, I believe that is a true thing. So let me know if you think that's a true thing. Anything else you want to add about Elvis? I feel real bad that I didn't write about him, and writing. I should write things down, then I could remember them as I'm talking to you, but I didn't do a video on his birthday that I wanted you to. But there was someone else very important that I wanted to talk about that day, so I guess the two clashed and my brain just went poof. And I don't even know if I had a video for that day. But anyhow, that's not here or there. Let me know if you're an Elvis fan. If you are, what's your favorite song? Mine is Love Me Tender. That was my mom's favorite song, my birth mom's favorite song, and the mom who raised me, who was her sister's favorite song. And could it be my favorite song because I heard it over and over again? Could be, but It's a very nice song, but like I say, as I started the video, it seems like a song of a sad person, a hurt person, a person hurt in love. These love me tender, love me true, never let me... No, I screwed up the words. Whatever I said at the beginning, I should have at least wrote those 2 lines down, but anyhow, I hope if you like Elvis, you're as excited as me. And has anyone been to Graceland? Let me know. If you have, gosh, you're lucky. I know I'll never get to go there because my life just gets lower and lower and worse and worse. But you know what? This was exciting for me to talk about Elvis because I really like him. And I listen to his songs a lot on YouTube because he was just a very talented man. Take everything away with the drugs and all that. And, you know, a lot of these people who get into money sadly get into them, and it's horrible. And with all the people around him, why wasn't anyone... Well, they were all doing the drugs, uppers and downers, but there had to be someone in his life. And they said Priscilla left him because she found out he was messing around with other women. I guess they called hooking up these days, or maybe it's not a hookup anymore. Who knows? I'm just a mom. If you know what it's called nowadays, let me know. I'm just curious because I always like to know. The more you know, the more intelligent you are. Not knowing what a hookup calls today is making you more intelligent, but just curious. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed my little story about the little... I probably do years and years of Elvis, and I still wouldn't get through it. But anyhow, I should have concentrated on the years, but to me, because I'm a history buff, the years were important. But I hope you enjoy this. I hope I have some comments of, you know, if I had wrong dates or what even your thoughts are. Do you think the military really did this? I mean, it makes sense, you know. You see a pop star going and joining and whatever. So let me know anything you know, especially if you've been to Graceland and all that. So for now, don't forget to my mouth is so dry. Subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. Share. Thank you to my new subscribers. I see we got some new subscribers. Thank you so much. If everyone just hits that like button and just puts a little comment or even says hi, that brings our videos up higher in the algorithm, and then you help us. You help our channel, which would mean you help my son Polly. And then we can beat the monster who's trying to make us lose our house and everything else. Yep, there it is. He went into it, but you know, it's life. It's my life. Like I said, my channel is raw and real. I can't edit my videos, so I felt that in my heart that if you help us by just putting a like and just a hi, but I hope with this video you tell me more you know about Elvis, because I need to smile. So you be the reason I smile tomorrow, which now I'm talking today. I'm not even going there. I'm going to mix you all up in myself. But anyhow, sharing is caring. Don't forget to pay it forward. It feels good in your heart, Polly's heart, and my heart. For now, if you made it this far, you must be an Elvis fan, and hope you write something down, even more facts, something that I don't know, something interesting, something funny, whatever. See you next time. Bye.